Alrighty, here we are for another Q&A, this time about something quite different than the norm. We're talking with Gabriel and Robina from the Billion Oyster Project and New York Harbor School. So, start where we always start, let you guys introduce yourselves. Who are you, where are you, how did you get into diving, all the good stuff?
Well, I'll start. I'm Robina Taliaferrow. I'm the Assistant Director of Education Outreach for the Billion Oyster Project. We're located in New York. I'm a resident of Brooklyn, New York. And this is my son, Gabriel Taliaferrow.
Hello, I'm Gabriel Taliaferrow. I was actually, I'm an alumni from the New York Harbor School, and I was actually an intern for the Billion Oyster Project. I started my career in diving with the New York Harbor School at the age of 15. Now I have a lot of training under my belt. I went through dive master training, and I have my own apparel company, hoping to start my own wetsuits eventually, somewhere down the line.
What's the company called?
Daffurn.
Nice, cool. So, what is the Billion Oyster Project?
Yes, so we're a nonprofit, and our mission is to restore oyster reefs to New York Harbor through public education initiatives. So we work with schools throughout New York City, and our flagship school is the New York Harbor School.
Okay, so the whole point is trying to recreate 1 billion oysters in the harbor, because there used to be a lot of oysters and now there isn't as many oysters, and we're trying to get the oysters back in.
Yes, so before New York was the Big Apple, it was like Oyster City. So it was back when the explorers came, Henry Hudson came, and you could basically reach down into the water and pull out an oyster. So it was that plentiful, but due to overharvesting and pollution, the oyster population was decimated. So we're trying to bring back oysters because they make great habitats for other life. As we just saw, like there was a whale in New York Harbor, so we could see that the waters are getting cleaner and cleaner. They also make great when oysters are in abundant numbers. Mm-hmm. So you have the big oyster reef, they can help protect shorelines and wave attenuation. And also oysters help filter and clear the water column. So that's how they're really a valuable keystone species.
It is crazy to think about it. When you think about New York, you think about this urban area and how it is now or has been, and you just to think about it way back when it was more of a natural environment, and then to how it is now, and then trying to find a nice balance between that obviously is what you guys are doing. So I love it, and I love that this is something that's happening in New York and not somewhere like, I don't know, I'm just going to pull Fiji out of my mind, but something like this tropical destination that when you think of diving, you think, oh yeah, like coral reefs and stuff. So it's awesome that people are diving in New York Harbor. I didn't even know it was possible. And it's just another kind of reason to think about your local neighborhood and kind of what diving is local and what ecosystems you can support locally. So how's it all going? That'll be my next question. How long's the program been running for, and what have you managed to achieve so far?
Good question. So far, we've restored 47 million oysters to date. We started in 2014, and we've collected 1.6 million shells. So we work with restaurants throughout New York City to collect and recycle oyster shells, because we'll take it back to our facility, cure it for a year or two, and use those to set new baby oysters and replenish them back into the harbor. So we're helping to recycle oysters that are being used in eaten in restaurants. And we've engaged over 8,000 students throughout New York City as well.
So you're taking oysters that are going to go to restaurants, and then you're putting them back in the harbor. Is that what you just said? I'm sorry, because I don't. This is all so fresh for me. Yes. That's like what?
Restaurant partners. So we have a number of restaurant partners, and they hold the oyster shells for us, and we collect them and we bring them back to our facility. We make sure all the matter is clear and everything off of them before we put them back into the lab, and use them as foundations for oysters to attach themselves to grow. And we recycle the oyster shells, you know.
Nice. So you said you're working with local schools and the community. I gather that's like a really foundational part of the program. And it's New York Harbor School, right? Is that the main school that you're working with alongside other schools, or kind of what's going on at New York Harbor School and what's the relationship there?
Yes, so New York Harbor School is our flagship school. So we're two separate entities. You know, Billion Oyster Project is a nonprofit that supports the programs of New York Harbor School. We have a really close symbiotic relationship where we have professionals that work in the marine and the maritime industry, and they work in the classroom with the Harbor School career and technical education teachers. So New York Harbor School is a career and tech ed school. It's a high school, and students learn anything from aquaculture, marine biology, marine systems technology, ocean engineering, marine policy, environmental advocacy, professional diving, of course, ocean engineering, and vessel operations. So through those 7 tracks, we're working with the New York Harbor School. A lot of the students spend a lot of time with the Billion Oyster Project, either through summer internships or through their classrooms. So the students are the ones actually, you know, farming and raising the oysters. In addition to the students are the ones when we need to gather some data on our reefs, they are the ones diving in New York Harbor and gathering that data for us. So it's a close relationship.
They're like the workforce, essentially, all the hands on deck. You went to New York Harbor School, didn't you, Gabriel? What did you study there? Like, what was your experience of it?
So my experience at the New York Harbor School, actually, when I started, I was transferring into the 10th grade, and that was the first year we were located to Governor's Island. So it was actually very exciting because a lot of our diving and everything that was going to be kind of learning, and all the the oyster planting was going to be kind of off the island, and as well as throughout Jamaica Bay and specific areas. So when I started, my job actually was actually pretty interesting because we were kind of tasked with this idea of finding like the native oyster so that we can kind of bring it back to the aquaculture lab. So one thing that my dive team did, we went around to different areas around Jamaica Bay, and we were kind of just like doing search patterns, kind of like scavenging and searching throughout the different areas for that native oyster, so that we can bring it back to the aquaculture lab, which would be kind of an amazing thing.
Yeah, it sounds amazing, and the fact that you're doing this while you're at school just sounds awesome. Way more fun than what I was doing at school.
Definitely.
So what have you found as being a student or being a parent of someone who is at New York Harbor School? What sort of benefits have you found, or just have you got any thoughts really take away from being involved in that as opposed to a more like traditional, normal, like, I don't know what you'd call it, but it's unique. So how has the experience been?
I would say the experience for me, it definitely, I would say it opened up my eyes, and I would say it kind of like shaped me to who I am now. It's like literally life altering, you know. I wouldn't really know where I would be if I didn't start scuba diving so early. It's definitely, it makes you think. It's definitely made my high school experience very exciting. I felt like I was more involved and, kind of had a reason to go to school. I would wake up and I would actually be excited. Hey, let's go to school. I have to go to diving later today. I would come home later, like at 8:00 p.m. after doing all the traveling and everything. But, I wasn't upset. I was ready to go the next day. Diving was great. It opened up a lot of different opportunities for me to go into different, even like, more in-depth diving programs, such as diving with a purpose, even I would say the island school, and I even got an internship with the National Park Service in Florida Keys. So definitely, really, it kind of created a passion in I guess the water. I love the water, I love the ocean, and I love diving now. And it's something that will always be a part of my life.
Yeah, I completely agree. I was lucky enough to start diving when I was young, and I think if you can get under the water when you're still a kid, it just changes things. And like you say, sets you on this different trajectory that you don't even know what your life might have looked like if you hadn't had that experience. How's it been for you, Robina, as from a parent perspective?
Yes, definitely. The main reason I'm in this current field is because of Gabriel. You know, he will wake up early in the morning to go out to Jamaica Bay, Queens, like 5, 6 o'clock. At 15, I was very concerned. So like, no, I'm gonna drive you. And what's going on? And why are you all of a sudden so excited to go to school? Because usually I have to like, you know, wake him up and everything. But now it's just like, it's total 360. So his interest and newfound passion was so strong that it just ignited something in me. So I volunteered more with New York Harbor School, ultimately gaining employment with the foundation, building Oyster project, and developed my own passion and the ability to positively impact young students the same way a student impacted me.
It's so nice. I think diving as an activity is got so many benefits, but being able to like bring families together and like unite like different generations of the family all under this one passion is something that definitely has been for my family. So it's nice to hear that for your family as well. Do you have any advice for other parents or students or schools or anyone that's liking what they're hearing and wants to kind of either get involved locally if they're in the region or set up something themselves locally?
I would say volunteer as much as you can. And if you can't physically donate your time, then if you have the ability to donate funds to organizations promoting diving and marine conservation, I mean, that's a great step.
Yeah, and I would say that honestly, it's just like taking that first step. When I wanted to become a diver, there was a test that we had to do. And like, I didn't really even know how to swim. Like I was always kind of watching TV and, you know, kind of just seeing all the strokes. But I was just like, I kind of want to do it. I want to dive. So that same day, I was just like, I'm just going to hop in the water. And if I don't, if I sink to the bottom, it's okay. Someone's going to come and get me. But I just went for it. And, you know, it's a scary experience in the beginning, especially the breathing exercises, doing all these things. But like, once you calm down, once you get to that position in your life, then it's honestly a beautiful experience. It's a whole nother world down there.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It's beautiful, and like you fall in love with it, and then that's why you want to protect it, right? And I think getting young people into the water is just setting that foundation for real like passionate conservationists going forward. So I don't know if you guys would agree with that, or if you had friends. I'm assuming it wasn't just you, Gabriel, at the School of One. There's got to be other people you've seen also get involved and take away from it. It's like similar to what you've taken away, or maybe different. I don't know your take on that.
Very much so. So I would say getting young people involved is a very big thing in terms of diving, as well as in the city. I would say New York City, getting like I would say like, you know, different communities involved as well is very crucial, because I feel like for me, I'm a little bit more lucky, as well as probably my diving team and different foundations that I found. You know, diving kind of introduced that to me, but not only just diving, but the New York Harbor School and kind of getting involved into CTE, career technical education, kind of based high school, where I can take a scuba diving class and learn how to go, you know, swim and do all these different opportunities. I would say like kind of having some way to introduce all those different, you know, let's say communities to something like swimming or, you know, scuba diving itself is very big. It's very crucial in order for them to learn or being able to take that very first step. Otherwise, I feel like when I talk to, I would say some friends I went to college with, it's like swimming for them was never an opportunity they had, nor was scuba diving. That's like completely, you know, foreign for them. It's like speaking another language. It's like, what's that, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if you guys caught the Black and Marine Science Week that was last week with Dr. Tiara Moore. She's fantastic, set up the Black and Marine Science Week. And with that, we were talking all about this myth that Black people can't swim, and all these different ideas, and people sharing these stories that really get you. Like Tiara was telling me she had trained for months to become a scientific diver, and then she arrived in Indonesia for this project, and then someone asked her if she was there to carry the tank. So it's definitely, it gets you in the heart, and it really brings home how, although the diving community is diverse and we are a global community, there's definitely some way to go to improve that diversity and inclusion. So I don't know if you have any personal stories on that or just your take on diversity in the diving industry in general, and where you want to see things go in the future.
I would say going back to that idea of like being a little bit more lucky, with the help of my mother, of course, we discovered the NABS Foundation, the National Association of Black Scuba Divers. And through the NABS, I've talked to someone named Kenneth Stewart. He helped me discover the Diving with Purpose organization. And that was a nice, diverse community where it basically kind of brought young scuba divers together to places like Florida Keys, where we were able to kind of connect back to our roots and discover what maritime archaeology was, basically allowing us to do different activities, but one specifically was search for a sunken slave ship that sunk somewhere below the Florida Keys. So I would say I luckily had a positive experience where there has been diversity, but that diversity has been created by other people. But those other people definitely need access to organizations where all these little branches can connect down to the roots of where that information isn't really being received. For example, like New York City, who really is going to go out there and expect anyone to be scuba diving in New York City, or even have that idea that, oh, I can actually go swimming in these waters where everyone thinks it's so dirty, but like we heard from the other day, there was now recently a whale, like a humpback whale, swimming in there. So I guess it's that one question: how can PADI and how can bigger organizations kind of find those ways to even teach people how to go swimming for all those communities?
Yeah, it's definitely something that we're looking at, because when you look at the statistics across the whole world, the levels of drowning amongst kids and all this stuff, if we want a dive community that is representing all of us and welcoming all of us, then we all need to have those basic skills to feel like we can get into diving because we can swim. So I guess it starts young. So hopefully we'll have some good news, or not good news, but some developments on that front in 2021. Some things in the works.
That'd be great.
So yeah, we'll see what we can do, because definitely as PADI, we are kind of leaders of this dive industry, and so if we can kind of focus on that and try and make improvements on that front, then we can pave the way for a more inclusive industry in the future. So thanks for your take on it.
Sorry, I'm hearing feedback. Just to build on that, New York Harbor School, when Gabriel was going diving, they didn't have a pool. They still don't have a pool. So they would actually still have to travel an hour or so to another location just to try and practice their dive skills. Access is a really important thing for young people to get involved, especially, communities that are marginalized. So how many of those communities have pools? How many of those schools? If there's more opportunities for our schools and, students of color, you'll have a growing diverse pool of students that are interested in swimming and scuba diving.
Yeah, that's such a good point, is that having access to the facilities to even learn in the first place. It's just, we're not in an equal place. I can't really speak for the US, I don't have personal experience, but over here in the UK, we have similar issues in terms of when not in an equal place, and different areas and different schools are not going to have all the same facilities and all that. So yeah, as I said, hopefully there's something that we can do at PADI to try and push things in the right direction. But it's interesting to hear your guys' take on it. So looking ahead to the future, what is next? What's the hopes for the Billion Oyster project? Where are you? You're like a quarter of the way there, almost to this billion, and we want a billion Torchbearers, you want a billion oysters, so we're all on the billion.
Yeah, so, we have some work to do, and we're also adding. We're hoping to engage not just plant a billion oysters in the harbor, but now we are hoping to deeply engage 1 million people to be active in their local waterway. So this is a new initiative and one that we want to, and we hope that will sustain people being involved in their, in the waters of New York Harbor, as well as abroad.
Yeah.
We want people to take an active interest.
Yeah,
change, everything is happening, environment is really important. So yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like we're really on the same page, but coming at it from different angles. We want 1 billion people to also think about what's going on in the ocean, because we understand 1 billion people is like 1 in 10 people on the planet. So we're perhaps not going to be making divers out of 1 billion people. Who knows, we might, but just to touch 1 billion people and get them thinking about what's going on in the water, because like you say, everything's connected and we all have a stake in it and we all rely on it. So yeah, let's help each other out as much as we can. Hopefully we can get 1 billion oysters, 1 billion Torchbearers all coming together, and we'll just bring the ocean back from where it is now, because it's definitely hopeful. We've seen some things because of COVID and some things just when we've set up marine protected areas, and what you guys are doing with the Oyster project. When you leave an ecosystem alone to recover and you give it a helping hand, it really can. It's really surprising like how much it can bounce back. So I feel hopeful. Is there anything else you would like to add, or anything that we missed, or extra bits?
I guess not. I do agree with that. You said 1/10 of the people is probably 1 billion, but that little bit definitely counts. It's that factor that it connects everyone in a way, and it connects you back to the ecosystem. If you understand that the water is a value that is a little bit more precious than just going to the beach. All those things down there, all that whole other world, it's a beautiful thing, and I feel like a lot of people should really see the beauty in it.
Yeah, and that's really it, isn't it? Encouraging people to get in the water and see it, because we can talk about it forever, but until you're really in there under the water, you can't really describe it unless you've experienced it.
Yes, and it's a really positive and good step when organizations such as PADI, big organizations, are getting involved with smaller groups like NABS or Black Girls Dive and New York Harbor School diving program. It really makes a difference. So thank you.
Well, thank you for making the time to chat. It's been really interesting to hear about this. I'm definitely going to be keeping tabs on your social media and see like what's happening as it comes along. This is such like a unique and interesting program, but it shouldn't be. It should be like an example, and then we should have loads and loads and loads more programs just like this going all across the world. So hopefully we can inspire some people. Is there any like contact details or any way for people, if anyone's watching and they want to learn more about kind of how the program was set up in the first place, or they have questions, how they can get in touch?
So they can go to billionoysterproject.org. Is our website. We're also on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, as well as New York Harbor School. It has a website of their own.
Cool. All right, I'll find those links and I'll put them all together with this video, so it'll be an easy click. And yeah, fantastic. That's it then. Thank you again, and have a lovely evening or afternoon. I'm not sure what time it is for you.
Thank you. Hope you have a lovely evening too.
Thank you very much. Okay. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Cheers.